Hi everybody, you can hear me, right? Isha is right here outside of the door to make sure that the audio is okay.
I gotta make sure she doesn't screw everything up.
Let's go to setting. Go check out audio.
All right, it seems to be working. All right, good. Bye everybody. Have fun.
So this is so funny. You know, when you have a partner who is way better than you at dealing with this, technical stuff, and for years I was so bad at it, and finally, like, it was to the point that EJ, my partner, like reached his limitation. He couldn't bear it anymore, and he forced me to learn this thing. And finally, I learned it, and I didn't need his help. Like most of the time, like sometimes I still need, but most of the time I do not. And he's like paranoid about it. He's just paranoid.
Just keep in mind that, like a Ken Burns documentary, you're only hearing one side of the story. Propaganda.
Oh, like I now I do not need him anymore, but he just like stand outside the door and waiting for me
I'm
to
helping
go for
you.
him. I know, thanks so much. So
all right, I'm retiring.
It's kind of funny, like to see like, like there's something like, just like our parents, they always want their children to grow up, but once they grow up, they always like worried and then always want to check,
You've overmodulated a couple times.
Okay, fine. Jeez. Well, this is my life. Hi everybody, I'm Luna Ơi. I'm a Vietnamese communist born and living in Vietnam. Thank you so much for being here. This is a route 2 of me watching the Ken Burns documentaries and debunk it, because a lot of people like praise this documentaries and thought that it's like a good neutral source perspective about the Vietnam War. And they got funded by the Bank of America, by the Koch money, and many other, like organization like super right wings. And so, I mean, the point of the stream that I'm doing today is to show you how insidious these supposed to be neutral, piece of propaganda are, and hopefully, in the future, you will be more careful when you encounter this kind of thing. And you should always be skeptical, when listening about like any piece about history from the State Department directly. So I mean, today I'm trying to help you to understand the tactics that they use and all the lies and misinformation that they use to manipulate the truth. So yeah, thank you so much. And a Conrad in the chat asking about the route 1 of this. Now I will give you the link to route 1 right now. I put like boring Conrad on YouTube. Their name is boring. I'm not calling them boring. Their name is boring, okay? This is route 1, okay? And at first, this stream also on my main YouTube channel, which is Luna Ơi. But after that, right after the stream, the first route stream got a copyright strike. And the insidious thing is this: Ken Burns' documentary is supposed to be fair use, and I can use it, for educational kind of purpose. But the thing is that like he used in the first part, I play a bunch of videos from the Ken Burns, and he used 2 extremely strong copyrighted pieces of music. And because of that 2 songs, that video was like got the copyright strike, and it was blocked worldwide. Okay, like totally blocked worldwide. Nobody nowhere, even myself, can watch it. And luckily on that day I streamed on my Luna Ơi Live channel too, and knock on wood, it's still up to this point. So if you have a chance, please go watch it, because I do not know how long it will last. Even though I cut off the parts that have the copyright music, but the video still totally blocked worldwide on Luna Ơi. So there's the only chance for you right now to go watch Luna Ơi Live channel. That video on that Luna Ơi Live, I sent the link in the chat. Please check it out. And yeah, and as I said, I don't know how long it will last. So that is the thing, those capitalists using the capitalist platform to silence, you know, people like me. And they do not do it straight. They do not because, like, plausible deniability. Like, so like, oh, your copyright not because you're like critique my documentary. It's because we use copyright music and that music got you copyright strike. It's a, like they very insidious way they do it, like so they can deny it later. It's not Ken Burns that copyright me. It is actually the music that he used that copyright me. God damn it. I am sure that this is the way that a bunch of capitalists say they use it to avoid other people like me to critique the documentaries that's supposed to be fair use. The documentary itself is fair use, but the music used in it has terrible copyright strike. You believe it? Oh, gosh. And so it is really sad. And now today, let's watch the next part of it. But to warm up, let's talk a little bit about, if you don't know much about what's going on in Europe yet, and China too, we all must be aware that Europe right now and China, they are facing the huge energy crisis. In Europe, it is because the Ukraine Russia thing. So Russia got sanctioned by those NATO countries, and because of that, Russia like stopped, shutting down the gas pipes to Europe, and they stopped selling coal and wood and all kind of and like oil to Europe, and caused like a huge problem to Europe right now. That is why they're facing huge energy crisis. They do not have enough gas or oil or electricity even to run, and the winter is coming. It's huge, and now people in Praha, right, Czech Republic, 70,000, citizens like rose up and, protest to force their government to be neutral in the Russia-Ukraine kind of issue. Okay, and about China, they also face terrible energy crisis. It's not because of that, it's the same situation. It is because they are having a huge drought catastrophe right now. That are half of the country is facing terrible drought and extremely high, heat right now in the summer. So China, they have a lot of hydraulic kind of power plant, and because of that drought, tons of the plants like that they have to shut down, or they have to like lower their output because they do not have enough water for that. So that is why they facing terrible energy crisis. So it is really big news in Vietnam, and we struggling. Vietnam hasn't faced any severe energy crisis yet. We do every single year. We lack electricity, and we have to buy it from China too. But now because China cannot even have enough electricity for themselves, so we're afraid that they cannot sell electricity for us. It means that our economy will be affected. And also we're afraid that if like this, the gas price will rise up again, and it also affect our economy. So again, we do not live in a vacuum. Anything that happen, every catastrophe or crisis happen in other countries somehow will affect us. So this is the thing. That's why I say like lots of tons and millions of Vietnamese, especially Vietnamese communists, are looking very close as a situation going on outside of Vietnam, and it's tough. Oh, I didn't know about this. Europe is backing Africa to supplement the fuel that they are not getting from Russia. Hmm. Yeah, isn't this obvious? It's so funny. It's so funny. Like, those here's the thing. I'm looking at this from an economist perspective. All right. I learned economy in university, so at least I have some basic knowledge about it. So those NATO countries, when they, follow the demand from the USA and sanction Russia, this is it should have been the very first thing that they think about when they decide to sanction Russia. Like, of course, if you sanction them, they will stop selling you gas and oil. Isn't that obvious? And now they act like they're shocked. Like, seriously, like, you are like leaders of NATO. They're supposed to be the ones who like know how to run an economy well. Like, I don't know why. Like, it just should have been the very first thing that they must be aware of. And if they agree to sanction the USA, they have to have plans already to deal with this shit because it's not obvious. Like even a ding dong Vietnamese, like the person living in Vietnam, the first thing that I read the news, and I read the news about NATO's want to sanction. So like the very first thing that I thought about is wow, what about the gas pipes that they buying from Europe? Isn't like Europe like doesn't Europe depend a lot on gas from Russia? And so at that time I was so naive. I really thought that like, oh, I guess these NATO countries they must have a plans already to prepare for this because they running big countries in the rich like region. Of course they must know about it, but like now I read like the country like struggling and they blaming each other, they criticizing Russia, people rising up having like protests. Like, so it's not that you prepared already before you agree to sanction them. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, I don't get it, man. Oh gosh. Spain is asking Morocco for fuel as well as Algeria. Blinken's trip to Algeria was get to get fuel for Spain, of course. Of course, Algeria has lots of gas sources. My gosh. They only care about the affiliation. That's why the US hasn't recognized the Armenian genocide. Turkey and the US are in NATO, and Turkey is economically beneficial for the US. Yeah, NATO is fucking bullshit. NATO is just an organization of lapdogs that will do whatever the USA tell them to do. And just it. They like a fucking imperialist lapdogs, you know. It's just literally like they use their hegemonic power and actual military power and weapon power to threaten the whole fucking world. So I really still don't get it, like, those leftists who support NATO, they fake leftists. They are right winger. Like, no doubt about it. Literally, when you support NATO and the fucking United States of America, they literally right wingers LARP as leftists so they can get clout and they will confuse people. The whole point is to confuse other people. Like, they are leftists, but they support NATO and the United States of America. So I guess all leftists or communists are like that. Like, hey. Oh, thank you so much, Eddie. How are you? How are you lately? Well, I wonder what it's like to have a local picture. Ah, I mean, Kay, you're from Chile. I mean, you have a lithium, just like other countries have like petrol. Vietnam, we do have a natural like oil, petroleum, but it's not much at all. Our national reservation is just like 44 million barrels, I think, 44 billion barrels, if I'm not wrong. But this is a maximum that we have. And the more we use, we will lose it. The more we will lose. Because we're trying so hard to find new oil reserve, oil like mine or something, but could not. Under we believe that under the sea of us right now, there's oil, but the bottom of the sea is too rough and it's gonna cost like lots and lots and lots of money and research to actually we can like suck it up from the bottom. So we could not do it yet. So it's a tough situation in Vietnam. All right, let's start. I think that's enough for a warm up. Let's start with this, and also now we will start watching some videos from Ken Burns. And if you have any questions, please ask me, and I will try to answer them all during the stream. Okay, let's start. Let's see. Where's Elizabeth? Oh, here it is. Today we're gonna explore Team 3, Lesson 3 of the Ken Burns. So here's the thing. This is I'll move it here so I can use it easier. So Ken Burns documentary is a documentary that got funded by the State Department of the USA. It is literally the state propaganda of the United States of America. And they paid for this documentary. They also turned this into a whole lessons to teach children from 9 to 12-year old in the United States of America. So it is not just normal documentary online or something. It is an actual documentary that is used to teach 9 to 12-year-old children in the USA. So now, Team 3, we gonna learn about, this is bullshit, the Truman's decision to aid the French. We learn about, Ho Chi Minh's quest to end the French colonial rule. Truman faces Cold War, Truman in Vietnam, and also France fight the dirty war in Vietnam, Battle of the Dien Bien Phu, and Eisenhower at the Dien Bien Phu, and also we also watch, like how the USA promote a coup in South Vietnam and the Gulf of Tonkin incident. I'm excited. Not really. Let's see how the history of my own country being distorted by the United States of America. Yay, great. Now let's watch this. The Ho Chi Minh's quest to end French colonial rule. Okay. I need to plug in. Okay. All right. I'm putting on my headphones here. You see it, right? Okay, good. Now let's start. Let's read the introduction a little bit. By the spring of 1945, more than 3 years after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States government was looking for allies behind the lines in Vietnam. Okay. Sensitive. This resource contains material that may be sensitive for some students. Okay, talking about 9 to 12 years children. So let's talk about this period of time in Vietnam.
By the spring of 1945, more than 3 years after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States government was looking for allies behind the lines in Vietnam. The Americans were hoping to find a way to undermine Japanese forces there when they were contacted by Ho Chi Minh.
And so it was decided to drop an OSS team in to meet with the Viet Minh leadership. Paul Hoagland was the medic on the team. And the first thing he was told was that he must attend to their leader, who was desperately sick. So he was taken to a grass shack where a bewhiskered, skinny man lay in a bundle of straw, desperately ill. And that was Ho Chi Minh.
The OSS, the secret wartime precursor of the CIA, supplied Ho's ragtag guerrillas with arms and marveled at how quickly they learned to handle them. Ho Chi Minh began to call his followers the Viet American Army and praised the United States as a champion of democracy that would surely help them end colonial rule.
We saw the American coming. And when we look at the American, we consider them as a kind of free man liberating the people. They have liberated Europe already.
Meanwhile, famine gripped the northern part of the country.
Actually, it was the USSR who defeated fascism, but okay, whatever. Okay. I mean, the USA like joined the war in the last like moment, but okay.
As a kind of free man liberating the people. They have liberated Europe already.
Yeah, this guy's three stripe,
Meanwhile,
Gusano.
famine gripped the northern part of the country. Hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese were dying of starvation, while Japanese storehouses were filled with rice.
In those days, garbage was collected by people pushing carts. And my mother remembers that every morning she would see these garbage carts going around and people picking up dead bodies and throwing them on the carts. It was incredible. And people who lived through it would never forgot.
Duong Van Mai's father was the deputy governor of a province east of Hanoi, the son and grandson of mandarins who had all served the French.
So again, that lady before that, she, like in the first last week's stream, she said that, sad story about her father was threatened by the Viet Minh just because her father worked for the French. She was so sad about it, and yeah, that is it. You're seeing her grandparents and her parents right now, like they fucking rich. Look at the street, and the outside that woman's wearing. That is a sign of like from a super rich family at that time, because Vietnam at that time we were under the occupation of fascist Japanese and then French colonial at the same time. We were starving, we were dying. But look at this. Finally, we see the Compradors. Literally the Compradors.
He and his wife had 17 children.
17 children. Oh, wow.
Parents who had children who were plump were very afraid of their children being stolen and killed. And it was really like hell on earth. The government didn't have a clue on how to deal with this calamity.
But Ho Chi Minh did.
Yes, he
directed
did.
the Viet Minh to break into the Japanese storehouses wherever they could.
Yes.
And distribute the rice to the people.
This is process. Okay, this is literally process. I talk about this so many times in many of my streams already. The reason why that Ho Chi Minh got the support from millions of Vietnamese people at the time, even though like 90%, more than 90% of us didn't even know how to read and write, and we didn't even understand what communism meant. But we supported him because he was the only one who could be able to feed us. Literally, you're looking at mutual aid right here. Mutual aid that Ho Chi Minh did, that got the support for millions of hungry Vietnamese people. And they talk about how the government didn't know how to deal with this. The government means the French colonial government, run by compradors, because they are too busy stealing the food from the people. That is why they like so confused. They don't know how to feed hungry people. And that is it. Ho Chi Minh did literally mutual aid right here, folks. Congrats. Look at this, right?
They were hailed as saviors.
Yes, exactly. They did save us. Oh, wait a minute. So that's it, actually. Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And they move on to the August 6th, almost when we have a revolution. So Ken Burns didn't mention anything at all because from around 1940 to 1944, 1945, Vietnam was under the occupation of the fascist Japanese. But when the fascists was losing, they were losing in the battle of the World War II, They had to, like de-weaponize and had to like move out of Vietnam. And the one who's supposed to do that was the French soldier, French army, French colonial army. So French colonial army came to Vietnam around 1945 before that. And instead of, de-weaponizing the fascist Japanese, the French actually worked with the fascist Japanese to exploit Vietnam even more. There's a famous saying in Vietnam at that time that is một cổ hai chồng. It means like it's just one neck, but you have two chains in it. One chain from the fascist Japanese, and the other chain is from the French colonialists. Means that they work theoretically. The French must kick out the Japanese and take over Vietnam, but nope, they shake hands, they work together, and they together stole everything they could. Japanese lost the World War II, so they were hungry at home, so they took every single rice and food they can from Vietnam to feed their own people at home. At the same time, French also lost a lot of resources because of the World War II, even though they were on the winning side, but they still want to make up for the loss that they had. So they stole the rest of everything. So, the famine of Vietnam in 1944, 1945 was because of both French colonialism and Japanese fascism. 2 million people in the north died of starvation. That is just a number of mostly in the north of Vietnam. We do not have an exact number of people in the south yet. And the population of Vietnam at that time was just around 23 million people. So around 10% of our population died of starvation in the matter of just 2 years. And thanks to, yes, French and the Japanese. And so funny thing that like Ken Burns conveniently didn't really mention the role of French colonialists in the mass starvation of Vietnamese during this time.
When an atomic bomb destroyed Hiroshima, and 3 days later a second one destroyed Nagasaki, Japanese surrender seemed imminent. Ho Chi Minh called upon all Vietnamese to rise up and take over their own country before the Free French could re-establish their old colonial regime. They did, in cities and towns across the country. On September 2nd, 1945, the same day the Japanese formally surrendered, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese streamed into Ba Dinh Square in Hanoi to see for the first time the mysterious leader of the Viet Minh and hear him proclaim Vietnam's independence. With an OSS officer standing nearby, Ho Chi Minh began with the words of Thomas Jefferson: "All men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Cả dân Việt Nam cũng phải hiểu rồi. Ai cũng thấy từ nay nước Việt Nam được độc lập, tự do, thống nhất, toàn vẹn lãnh thổ và có tên trên bản đồ thế giới. Mọi người rất tự hào.
Ho Chi Minh had great hopes that the U.S. would support the Vietnam desire for independence, not necessarily by intervening, but by doing what it could to support an independence movement.
Ho Chi Minh's hopes for American support were calculated but understandable. President Franklin Roosevelt had promised a post-war world that would respect the rights of all peoples to choose the form of government under which they live. But Roosevelt was dead now, and his successor, Harry Truman, had inherited a very different world. The alliance with the Soviet Union that had won the Second World War had collapsed. The Soviets now occupied the Eastern European countries they had overrun and hoped to spread their influence farther into Iran, Turkey, and the Mediterranean. A new Cold War had begun.
It's a fucking Cold
French
War.
President Charles de Gaulle warned that if the United States insisted on independence for her colonies, France might have no choice but to fall into the Russian orbit. The United States must do nothing to undercut the restoration of France's empire, including Vietnam.
There were hardly any Americans in Vietnam, State Department people, consular officials, a few businessmen, hardly anyone from this country knew where Vietnam was located.
George Wicks was part of a 7-man OSS mission sent to Saigon, the largest city in the South. The United States was officially neutral, hoping the French and Viet Minh could reach some peaceful solution on their own. Allied leaders had agreed temporarily to divide Vietnam into 2 separate zones. Nationalist Chinese troops were to handle things in the north. British colonial troops would try to perform the same task in the south, where rival factions.
You see it. Vietnam, we won our independence already, but they did not treat us as independent country at all. Suddenly, they separated our country against our will into parts, and then they gave a part to different country, and they gave the other part to different the other countries. What the fuck is the UK, Britain doing here? You see how annoying we had the things that we had to deal with. This is our fucking country, and we gained our independence already, and now they treated us like a bunch of it's fucking annoying. What the fuck? And they reported about this as just totally normal. Suddenly, you're gaining independent, and then suddenly a guy in the middle of nowhere separated our country into parts, and then assigned that parts to different other countries, they allies, without even asking us. It's really disgusting.
Including the French and Viet Minh, were already fighting in the streets of Saigon.
No one was in charge. On both sides, there was brutality and atrocity and violence.
Oh yeah, really? Both sides, huh? Again, this is still, the both side bad bullshit. Literally, the French, they came to Vietnam. They supposed to de-weaponize fascist Japanese, but instead they caused famine in Vietnam alongside with the Japanese. And after that, they immediately wanted to go back to Vietnam and turn Vietnam back into part of. They wanted Vietnam to be their colony one more time, so they can extract our wealth and our natural resources back to their home country. And then our people just fought back. Our people just fought back because We want independence. We want freedom. We want self-determination. And then we fought back those invaders. And suddenly now, according to, an officer from the OSS, the former CIA, say like, oh, the brutality on both sides. And literally, we fucking just fought back against the invaders. Suddenly now we are painted as badass. And what the fuck are they doing here, by the way? So what? So like when the enemy literally go to your house, murder your people, mass rape your women, and we must do nothing because if we fight back violently against their violence and their torture and their mass murder on us, we also as brutal as them. This is what's the really bullshit kind of narrative and fucking unfair. Like seriously, if gangs like, for example, if gangs go to your house, destroy everything, steal everything, kill your own family member, and if you grab your knife and fight back, oh, they see the victims also as brutal as the gangsters. I don't know, what should I side with? The gangster or the victim? This is like, the insidious propaganda, like like Ken Burns just report about this. It's just like, oh, we don't know actually like who's worse, the invaders or the invaded, because they both fighting each other. God damn it. We try to kill them and they defend themselves. Violence in both sides. Bullshit.
It wasn't quite a civil war, but it was getting very close to civil war in the streets of Saigon.
No, it was never a civil war. This is a resistance war from the Vietnamese against the French invader. It's not fucking a civil war. You divided our country against our own will and then assigned the colonial armies from different countries to take over it. And when we fought back, they like, oh, this is just like almost like a civil war. Like, shut up.
Lieutenant Colonel Peter Dewey, the 28-year-old commander of the OSS in Saigon, tried to make sense of it all.
Right from the start, he was in touch with everybody, not only the French, but very soon he established a connection with various Vietnamese groups. The Viet Minh soon established themselves as the most successful.
Dewey, who spoke fluent French, brokered talks between a Viet Minh spokesman and the senior French representative in the city. His efforts infuriated British General Douglas Gracie, who commanded Allied forces in the south. Gracie was convinced that French control should be reimposed as soon as possible. By conferring with the Viet Minh, Gracie said, Colonel Dewey had become a subversive force. The violence in and around Saigon escalated. Colonel Dewey urgently cabled his superiors. Vietnam is burning, he wrote. The French and British are finished here, and the United States, he concluded, ought to clear out of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, they should have. You should have.
2 days
USA.
later, September 26, 1945, he set out for the airport, prepared to fly to OSS headquarters. At a roadblock, the Viet Minh mistook Dewey for a Frenchman and opened fire. He was killed instantly.
Ho Chi Minh.
I'm sorry, but I got to say that to us, most of white people look the same. I'm sorry. But I mean, it's kind of understandable. I will listen to this again.
At a roadblock, the Viet Minh mistook Dewey for a Frenchman and opened fire.
Hey!
He was killed instantly.
Ho Chi Minh wrote to the United States, lamenting the deaths of Dewey, whom he recognized as a person sympathetic to his cause. It seemed a terrible irony that Dewey, who was doing what he could to help the Vietnamese independence movement, should have been killed by the Vietnamese by a mistake.
Well, that's it. Sad, huh? Yes, but well, should have listened. Should have listened. I mean, it is a thing, you know. It is a bloody war that we had to fight, and I never said that Vietnam never made any mistake or Ho Chi Minh never made any mistake. That is impossible. So I mean, it is really sad. I gotta say that we like, you know, shot Dewey just in a mistake because we thought that he was French. It is really sad, but it doesn't justify the decision to back the French and then the invasion of the USA later. All right. Now, let's move on to the next one, I guess. It's about this one. Huh. Give me a second. Truman face the Vietnam War. It's just short. It's very, 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 very short. The point is, you always have a choice. Exactly. The next part is about, you know, Truman, the new president of the USA, you know, how he faces the Cold War at that time. After Russia became a nuclear power, communist forces seized control of China and the British colonies of Burma and Malaya. Mao and the Soviet Union formally recognized Ho Chi Minh's insurgency, providing them with arms, equipment, and military training. Okay.
President Truman's dramatic announcement that Russia had the atom secret caused State Departments all over the world to stir uneasily.
We were very aware that there was a Cold War and that we had an enemy, and that enemy was the Soviet Union. The United States stood at one pole and the Soviet Union stood at the other pole. It was kind of a Manichaean dynamic that there was evil and there was good, and we were good and the other side was evil. It wasn't morally ambiguous.
Just a few weeks after Russia became a nuclear power, there was more stunning news. Communist forces under Mao Zedong seized control of China. Separate communist insurrections were also underway in the British colonies of Burma and Malaya. In January 1950, Mao formally recognized Ho Chi Minh's insurgency and agreed to provide the arms, equipment, and military training he had been seeking. The Soviets recognized the Viet Minh as well and also offered help.
Yes. I mean, the air horn noises. What do I say? Well, the Cold War, right? I mean, Vietnam was heavily affected by this, you know, dynamic of the world at this time. And I mean, because of, you know, the USSR and then China and then also Vietnam wanted to be communist, that is why, you know, the USA was terrified and they wanted to stop, you know, communism from spreading, blah blah blah. And also at the same time, Vietnam is a very rich in natural resource kind of country and very important if you think about the geopolitics, the, you know, like the geography of Vietnam, you know, with the half of the country is the coastline and located right next to China. It could be like a really important spot to fight against communism in China and USSR. So that was why the USA, you know, they will have they acted Ho Chi Minh before to gain the independence in 1945, but now they switch and they change the side, and then they supported the French instead, and then later than that, when the French lost, they invaded Vietnam. So, how much do you think the Khmer Rouge army and the Viet Minh can be compared? Do you think Pol Pot at least had his hurt on the right at the beginning? Nope. No, never. Pol Pot has always been an opportunist, to say it mildly. Pol Pot was at first an opportunist, and later he showed his true face to be a real fucking fascist kind of leader. So I can give you a little bit of a brief summary of Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. In 1951, the Khmer People's Revolutionary Party, something like that. Yes, the Khmer People's Revolution Party was formed, and it was started as a part of the Indo-Chinese Party that founded by Ho Chi Minh and many other communists in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And in 1951, the Khmer People's Revolution Party was an ally of Vietnam, and they were helping Vietnam a lot alongside with the Pathet Lao, which is the communist revolutionary force from Laos. And yes, and then Pol Pot at that time also joined that Khmer People's Revolutionary Party, and all the way from 1951 to around 1963, Pol Pot got higher and higher in that party. And this is exactly what happened in 1963. Suddenly, the leader, the General Secretary of the Khmer People's Revolutionary Party of Cambodia, he was missing. He went missing. And then right after that, Pol Pot took over that party. That is exactly what happened in history. Now, this is what we, Vietnamese communists kind of suspected. Because at that time, we suspected that we do not have enough evidence. I'm just saying it's a theory from Vietnam. But I pretty much believe that this is actually what happened. So Pol Pot at that time wanted to gain power in the Khmer People's Revolutionary Party. So he kidnapped and assassinated that General Secretary of that Revolutionary Party of Cambodia. And then he immediately took the power. And right from the moment he took power in 1963, the Revolutionary Party of Cambodia became very hostile to Vietnamese, and we had a great concern about them because we were fighting against the USA troops, fighting against the puppet regime, and also those Khmer Rouge. They didn't call them Khmer Rouge at that time, but with the Pol Pot leader, the Khmer People's Revolutionary Party, they provoked the border of South of Vietnam a lot, and they wanted to take over the south of Vietnam, and they believed that Vietnamese was the biggest enemy to the greatness of Cambodia people. It's just like how the Nazi Germany thought about Jews. It's the same as how those Pol Pot followers thought of Vietnamese, something like that. And yeah, all the way until 1974, 1975, after both countries gained independence, and Pol Pot officially took power as the Prime Minister of Cambodia, which I still call them Cambodia at that time, not Cambodia, it's Cambodia actually. So, and in 1975, Pol Pot became the Prime Minister of Cambodia, and he changed his name of the party into Cambodia's Communist Party or something, Cambodia's Communist Party, and we call them Khmer Rouge. Yes, and that was when the thing with Vietnam got worse and worse and worse every year, and the straw that broke the camel's back was the massacre, the Ba Chuk massacre that happened in An Giang province, a province right next to the border between Vietnam and Cambodia. And in a matter of few days, Khmer Rouge troops came to that village and killed 3,200 innocent villagers. Most of them were women and children, and they got killed by terrible means, not just gunshot. Just you can go Google it. It's on Wikipedia. It's horrible. So that was when we decided to send, a volunteer troops to go and end the existence of the Khmer Rouge genocidal regime. So my point is that me personally, and also vast majority of Vietnamese communists, we never thought of Pol Pot as the guy who had the good heart at first. Nope, at all. He always had been the opportunist, and right the moment that he took the power of the Revolutionary Party of Cambodia, he immediately showed his true face and turned his back to, Vietnam. And later than that, he took over the country and murdered, 30% of his own country's population. So that's it, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Khmer Rouge was the only communist government that the U.S. ever supported. That should tell you everything. Exactly. Exactly. America, we can't let communism spread except it is the Khmer Rouge and it is run by Pol Pot. You want donation link? That's a donation link right in the description. The streamelements.com/luna/tip or something. It's right in the description. You're telling that a lot of Cambodian communists right away form a different party against Pol Pot. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Did France try to recolonize Vietnam to try and restore its imperial economy? Yes, and there are more reasons than that too. The French colonized Vietnam for hundreds of years, and this is literally the true reason why they colonized Vietnam in the 19th century, late 18th, early 19th century. It was mostly because at that time, cars became a big industrial thing and everybody got to have a car. And in order to have a running car, you must have tires, for the wheels. And to make tire, you need rubber cheese, okay? Rubber cheese. And rubber cheese kind of cheese that they they require very specific kind of soil and weather to grow. They cannot just grow rubber trees everywhere. And Vietnam was bad luck enough to have a part of the land, the central highland of Vietnam, that has kind of soil and weather to grow that rubber trees. So the Michelin tire company at that time, they need, resources for natural rubber because that was not a synthetic rubber yet. And then that was why they conquered Vietnam, mostly because so the Michelin company can have a rubber so they can make tires, so they can sell cars, so they can make money. So they conquered Vietnam for 100 years. That was why, the French conquered Vietnam. And one of the very first things that they did was to build rubber tree plantations and then build railways to carry the rubber to, our port to transport it back to France. That's it. And another ironic thing is that right after they've successfully conquered Vietnam and set the rubber trees plantation, they found out about synthetic rubber. So actually, they didn't even need that anymore. But they still cling to Vietnam for the next hundreds of years. It's like, it's a good piece of meat, a very delicious piece of bread. So of course they won't just give us back our independence. Nope, they keep colonizing us. And instead of building more rubber tree plantations, they build more like plantation to grow like black peppers and coffee. Coffees and black peppers actually were one of the consequences from colonialism. Okay, they brought because rubber trees were not necessary anymore. So I guess now force our slaves to grow coffee and black peppers instead. So in all the way to World War One, because the French also joined World War One and they lost tons of natural resources. they faced terrible loss in the World War One. So I mean, in World War One, they came to Vietnam and exploit us even more, so they can make up for their loss. That was happened in 1918s, 1920s in Vietnam. Yes, all the way to 1930s, we were like colonize the shit out of them, and they for decades they keep like colonizing us and extract more and more the resources from us and make us poorer and poorer. And they build like factories in Vietnam at that time to make other stuff for them too. And all the way until World War II in 1940s, the French want to go back to Vietnam because first, as you said, they want to restore the imperial economy, and also at the same time, they want more resources to make up for their loss, and they want to be as powerful as the UK or the United States. Rich assholes who always want to compete with each other in that kind of sense. So they're back to Vietnam. Yeah, very, very, very sad. Oh, if you're watching on Twitch, the donation link can be found in the description box of the YouTube stream. Thank you. I didn't know that. Actually, yeah. You talk about the Korean War. I mean, the USA wanted Vietnam to be exactly as Korea. They wanted to separate, country into half, and they took over the South. They leave the North to the communists, evil communists, and then they want us to be like Korea, but we just said fuck off. We want to reunite our country, so get the fuck off our country, okay? In the US, we like to make fun of France for being bad at war, but the US is way worse. Exactly. How did Vietnamese become the national language? How to say it? Let me think. We have 54 ethnic minorities in Vietnam, and each of them have a different, their own language and their own culture, and we are trying so hard to, preserve all of those culture and language and encourage all ethnic minorities to keep, developing their cultures and their language, something like that. But I gotta say that for a very long time, for thousands of years, the vast majority of population of Vietnam is Kinh people. Kinh, which is also an ethnic in Vietnam. We are not minority. We are majority actually. We are ethnic in Vietnam. We are Kinh, and our language is Viet or Vietnamese. Okay. So because of that, for like thousands of years already, not just like a modern history for thousands of years, the Vietnamese is the language that got spoken the most by people living in Vietnam. So I mean, after we got independence and stuff like that, we still keep that language, and we still use the Latin kind of alphabet, and that's to this day. But it doesn't mean that we try to erase culture or languages of other ethnic minorities. In fact, on the contrary, we are doing a lot every year to encourage people in different ethnic minorities to, keep and develop their own languages and their own culture, something like that. So, yeah. Exactly. The fact that I hear some leftists treat Korean War as less clear-cut as Vietnam is saddening. Like, because the divide still exists, they act like the DPRK is less legitimate in opposing the South. Yeah, exactly. I just don't get it. Korea should just be one, and they should be united, just as Vietnam did. It's so sad. I thank you, Jonathan, Jonatas Marquez Lopez. Thank you so much for your donation. And the message is, Journey from the Fall depicts a Southern family escaping a PAVN re-education camp. It was banned in Vietnam. Do you agree with it? Also, is the we suffer a lot from war explanation for having markets really valid? I look at the PRK and have my doubts. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, I heard from it. I don't have any problem of we banning them because, you know, of the US propaganda bullshit, and we do not want to put up with it. All right. It is literally the kind of show that, like, you know, do the apologize for, you know, the people who, you know, literally the fascist sympathizers who escaped Vietnam, and instead of, you know, staying and working and help the country, they flee as fine. We let them flee. We didn't keep them. Yeah, okay, flee, but like making, you know, it's just like now you're making a show about Miami Cubans, you know, the descendants or the family members of those plantation owners, and they make a show about to apologize, you know, an apologetic show about them and how they escaped communism. Like, and if Cuba want to ban that movie in their country, fine. I don't have a problem with it. Good. This country is fucking traumatized enough to bear another piece of shit coming from those fucking fascist sympathizers. So I do not have any problem. And again, just watch this Ken Burns like documentary. It's supposed to be neutral. And it's fucking traumatizing to us already because of our own history being, you know, rewrite by these people who's supposed to be like, seriously, nobody really make any shows about, you know, Vietnam in the 70s, in the 80s, after the war, when we were facing the comprehensive sanction from the USA and we were fighting against Pol Pot with the back from the CIA. Vietnam, they made like they devote and made the movies show about, you know, people who escape communism. Like, this is the very least thing that we need, actually. Okay, and about, you know, like we suffered a lot from war as a nation for having markets really valid. You look at DPRK and you have your doubts, right? I don't totally understand this. And here's the thing. Now, here's the thing. You can't blame us. You do not blame the victims. Whatever we do, we believe that is the best for our own people. Now, here's the thing. Now, we admire the DPRK a lot about, you know, their decision. They're very tough to make decision to like still bear those sanctions from the USA to this day to be like that. But well, we both victims of the USA, and we just chose different way to try to, you know, have a better life for our own people. You cannot blame us because at that time we were in desperate situation. And my mom could have died of starvation if we didn't open the economy so we can borrow money from the USA. And, you know, we look at the DPRK right now, and seriously, do you want Vietnam to Vietnamese people to suffer as the USA so we can be pure in, you know, ideology, you know, or Cuba still under the US sanction for over 60 years and how much suffer they have to do. Do you like, you do really compare instead of, you know, thinking about why the USA does this, have been doing this to Vietnam, to North Korea, to Cuba. And why do you blame us that like we didn't choose the same path as Cuba, as the DPRK? Because here's the thing, each country have a different material conditions. And Vietnam at that time, I do not want to be apologetic for this, but it is just like we chose a different path to save millions of our own people from starvation. So you cannot blame us. We just like we are setting a lesson for you. If you know, want to have a revolution and to, you know, win against the imperialism coming from the USA, you look at us as lesson. All right. Because like if you fight against the power of the USA, and if you want to like act as you know, North Korea or Cuba, get ready that millions of your own people will have to suffer. from sanctions coming from that imperialist like power, superpower. And look at Vietnam too, like if like we want to choose a different way for millions of our people to survive, but it doesn't mean that we betray communism or we embrace capitalism or we love America, we become a lapdog America, right? We just chose a different way. We both want to build socialism, to have a strong economy. We both want our people to suffer less. And we both want to strive toward communism in the long future. We just choose a different path. And I hope you please do not judge us. We just chose a different path and look at us and learn our decision, understand our decision, and learn that what you will lose and what you will gain following that decision, and then you use that to apply to your own country's material conditions, because you have no position to judge any of us. You can't because we all victims, and millions of us facing starvation. And my mom could have died and I could not have born, or I could die because of the disease or starvation because of the sanction from USA. So I do not blame Vietnam at all anything about the decision, because it is a super tough decision. You want to stay pure and like you just follow strictly with your ideology, like North Korea, fine, you're very brave, we support that, but also acknowledge that millions of you will have to suffer. Or you choose like Vietnam, we like want to save millions of people, but we have to have a market in our own country and we have to face this threat even to this day. No, every solution that you choose, you will have to face, the strong points and the weaknesses, and look at us and learn from it. Because if you somehow successfully have revolution and won against the USA will come and threaten you and try to sanction you. You will have to choose one way or each other, one way or another. It's tough. It's really hard decision. What happened to veterans of the ARVN after the war? Lots of them decided to hide their history and just go back to their hometown and live a normal life. Because of course they used to work for the freaking puppet government, so they want to hide that so they can live a normal life. And another part of them, like they escape, they move out of the country and move to live in Australia or Canada or the USA, and they ended up like via diaspora to this day. And most of them, not all, I'm saying, don't get me wrong, not all, because they met many awesome via diaspora actually, but I mean, I gotta say that most of them are still very reactionaries and still, very anti-communist to this day. So yeah, but many of them decide to stay in Vietnam. How about those South Vietnamese refugees who live in the West who talk better about Vietnam but still go back to Vietnam for holiday? I mean, cognitive dissonance, because they left Vietnam, not all of them, I got to say, but many of them actually got directly involved in the puppet regime, and they were treated well before under the occupation of the USA because they worked for them. So of course and the USA were rich. And after we, won against them and the puppet regime was ended, and of course a lot of them, they lost their job, they lost their money, they were scared because the communist side win. They scared of revenge from the communists. So many of them, flee out of the country. And because they fled Vietnam, so first, inside their head, inside the mindset of them is still very anti-communist, and you fled the country out of fear. That is why it's like something ingrained in their brain, and Vietnam is forever to them a scary place. You got it? A scary, evil, communist place. Because that memory stuck in their head, and they do not have a new memories at all. And also at the same time, is that like the second reason why they are very action is that like they fled Vietnam. They fled their own home country. It is a very traumatizing decision, and literally they betray their own country. They betray their own people, and to go to the USA, the country that literally invaded and mass murdered their own people for over 20 years. The country that spray Agent Orange toxins onto millions of their own people, but they still made the decision of betraying, and they fled Vietnam to try to enjoy capitalism in the USA and try to lick the boots of those invaders. So inside them, there's cognitive dissonance. They have to somehow justify their action. And how to justify it? Of course, they have to paint Vietnam as a demon, so they can justify their decision. Oh, Vietnam is so evil. Vietnam is so bad like this. That is why I left Vietnam. That is why my action was totally justified, because Vietnam was awful. Vietnam was genocidal. Blah, blah, blah. That is why, like, because the memory got stuck in them, and also it is convenient for their cognitive dissonance to justify their action of fleeing their own home country and to go lick the boots of the invader. Two main reasons like that. That is why lots of people. And to this day, Vietnam is just getting better and better. The economy is very stable. Our food is awesome and extremely affordable. We also have affordable healthcare. Our people is friendly, great hospitality, So they enjoyed it. So that is why they go holidays in Vietnam. And also lots and lots of them, not kidding, I personally met many of them. They retire in Vietnam. They spend their whole life dunking on communism, bitching on Vietnam, and whining about their own home country and lying about it. But when they are dying, they decide to retire in Vietnam so they can enjoy the fruits of communism, enjoy the fruits of having affordable health care, healthy and cheap food, and also a very friendly society with happy people. They retire in Vietnam. So it is fucked up the thing that we have to deal with, like, those people who just like a bunch of expats. I hate using that word, and remember this, whenever I use the word expat, I am mocking it. They are just immigrants, okay? There are tons of racist expats in Vietnam. They hate communism. They're racist against our own people. They do not give a shit about our own country or culture, and they treat our women as sexual objects. But they still decide to go and have a life in Vietnam and got married to Vietnamese partners. At the same time, they still whine about us and wrote for, they still write for BBCs and Reuters and Foreign Policies and Washington Post about how evil communism is, while they're literally living in this country, enjoying this life, enjoying like awesome Vietnamese partners with extremely affordable healthcare, friendly society, healthy and cheap food, and made a whole career of dunking on us and lying about us. Hey, chauvinism, man. When countries are next to each other, you might have to flee to the country that's invading you. For example, Syrians fleeing to Turkey. In this case, these gusanos had to cross an ocean to get to the USA. Gosh. Do I blame all the Vietnamese that left after the war? Literally, I haven't met any, like Vietnamese who left the Vietnam War with like a reasonable reason yet. So I'm not saying I'm blaming all, but I'm still waiting for a reasonable reason to flee Vietnam rather than Vietnam is terrible, authoritarian, violent state that they will murder everyone. So I have to flee. Or, oh, I lost everything to the communists, and like we had like plantation, and we own factories, we own like the whole vast field before, but the communists took everything.
You do need to remember that the Americans were spreading all the propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there'd be
you're
mass
right.
murders. In fact, if you look at that Associated Press video,
Oh,
you know the white guy that's like spreading that propaganda.
yeah, exactly. My gosh, should I watch it again?
Maybe just that one clip.
Oh.
Here, I'll find the timestamp.
Yeah, you find it for me. Thank you so much. So, okay, at the same time, yeah, I guess I do not blame them all, because EJ just reminded me that, yes, it is true that lots of people fled Vietnam because they heard, the propaganda came from the USA saying that, in 1975, in April 1975, they said, like, literally a few days before that, they spread a fear among, like, people in Saigon, saying like, oh, if the communists successfully take over Saigon, there would be mass murder, there would be bloodbath, they would like murder everybody, so everybody should like run away right now as you can. So yeah, lots of people didn't know better and they fled. So yeah, I guess. I mean, couldn't many of them just be desperate and wanted to live in a stable country? Yeah, maybe.
It's literally right at the beginning.
Mm.
So
where? Is
go to
YouTube?
Chat? No, I just go to YouTube.
Oh.
It's the very first part of that whole thing. Hi everybody, I'm dirty and wet because it's raining, and I was
AP Saigon something.
Saigon communists. Put that in. You need a new taillight.
Really? You broke it again?
It's not even an LED. Okay. Share your screen.
No,
it's
but
the very beginning. Very beginning.
Okay.
In fact, you can see the iconic Lego set.
Yeah.
So just to set this up, this is and we've looked at this video a few times on various streams.
Yeah.
But this is a Associated Press video covering the what we call the fall of Saigon, the liberation of Saigon, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might be familiar with this first shot. Okay, now what you might not well, let's just play it.
Saigon, April the 30th, 8 o'clock. The last American helicopter on the roof of the American embassy prepares to lift off the last of the evacuees fleeing before the advancing communist armies. This scene, in fact every scene in this report, was filmed by a UPITN camera team who chose to remain behind in the beleaguered capital to record the final victory of the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese in South Vietnam. The American airlift only took a fraction of those who wanted to leave, and for
so Luna gets comments all the time that like there were mass murders in Saigon in the fall of Saigon, but like this is the Associated Press, Western journalism, on the ground covering it, and it was a very peaceful takeover. We've gone through this whole video. You can watch it. We'll put a link in the chat. But this guy you're about to see,
scores of people.
All right, there's a bunch of Vietnamese people
waiting to flee.
You're going to see a white guy. Now, I can't prove this, but this guy really stinks of like CIA to me. Like, who is this guy?
Still crowded onto the embassy roof in the vain
You'll see him in
rescue.
a second.
One of them was an American employer who tried to get
quote unquote American employer. They don't name
his staff out.
I had one select man that should definitely have left. I was waiting for him. He's sitting up here now, and here we are.
How do you rate the chances?
Negligible now.
Do you think the last ones have gone?
I think they're all gone. I think these people up here are committing suicide staying up here, but what can you do?
So, I mean, he says, so this is the beginning of this clip. Now, for the next 15 minutes of this 16-minute long clip, for the rest of the thing, you just see that it's a peaceful, completely peaceful takeover. Okay. So, like, this guy is, I mean, imagine the situation, imagine the scene. I just think it's remarkable. All these Vietnamese people on this roof, and who knows who these people are? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like high-ranking officials. Maybe they were just normal people. Who knows?
Yeah,
You
who
know?
knows? Yeah.
But we don't know. But we do know that there's this mysterious American employer who's wearing like a military shirt.
Yeah.
You know, who knows who this fucking guy is? But he's definitely spreading the story to all these people. Like, you're committing suicide if you stay here. You have to leave now. They're going to kill you.
Yeah.
There were newspapers printed by the ARVN and by the USA, press, telling everybody that the communists were just going to commit mass murder when they came in. There was a lot of, propaganda to try to make people terrified.
The tone of his voice, depressing, and I feel sorry for those people that like we could not save them, but they all gonna die.
So I mean, like, you have to. That's a circumstance where it's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably got tricked by the Americans into thinking it was gonna be awful. Now, there was somebody, you just had a comment up about like how does EJ pop up out of nowhere every video? I mean, we're married, so.
I mean, we unfortunately live in the same house, so.
But I don't know. We help each other out. Luna pops up in my streams.
Oh, my mom's
you're
calling me.
Speaking of which, I guess I'm taking over for a second.
Yeah,
are you talking to her?
Please, yeah, we have to. I mean, I get it.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. I'm not the person to talk about this much. I just want to shut up. Well, anyway, I'm just saying. I think Luna and I agree that a lot of people probably left because they wanted to go to a more stable country, because it would be a lot of they knew that there'd be a lot of poverty for the next several decades, and there was poverty for the next several decades. And Luna has a lot of videos on her channel about like her mom growing up during the war and then working as a farmer after the war during the subsidizing period. Really interesting stuff there if you want to check those out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that like every single person who left, and I don't think Luna thinks this either. We'll ask her when she gets back. But I don't think we're saying they're all like terrible, terrible people, every single one of them. But it is true that, a lot of them got deceived into becoming anti-communists by propaganda, just as there are a lot of American anti-communists, right? White American anti-communists, I would say, as a white American. I donate through Stream Elements, but apparently I'm locked out of PayPal now. That's not good, Gio. Hope you get that fixed. But thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Let's see. How is it to be with a tanky? It's great. What's up, Eddie? We need to talk soon. I have been completely off Discord, but we need to talk soon. So anyway, you dare me to speak Vietnamese? Okay. Xin chào các đồng chí. Tôi tên là EJ và tôi là người Mỹ. Bây giờ tôi rất vui vì tôi có thể nói về với các đồng chí. It's been so long since I've had a Vietnamese lesson. That part of my brain is decaying very quickly. I'm sure the Vietnamese people watching right now are just cringing hard, but anyway. Luna needs to get back and quick because I don't even know what she was talking about. I'm just scrolling up through the chat now. Yeah, a lot of people do leave because of the destruction of the war. I mean, that's true. And they didn't really necessarily know that the war was going to be over. They might have just been like, this is it. I'm fucking out of here. So, yeah. There's a lot of, I don't think that I really need Luna to come back. Somebody have any questions that I could answer? I'm scrolling up and these are all like questions for Luna because Luna was hosting. Who's this Ken Burns fool? Ken Burns is a documentarian/propagandist. who made the film The Vietnam War, which is propagated by PBS and the National Endowment for Humanities. It's used in lesson plans for students across the USA and probably around the world. So there's a lot of, and if you watch I keep telling Luna she needs to just do a full video series. What's shampoo? My hair looks like shit right now because I was just in the rain and working on my motorbike. So I don't think this is a good endorsement for whatever shampoo. I don't even know what shampoo I use. It's got vitamin E in it. That's all I know. What was I saying? I don't even know. Oh yeah, but anyway, the Vietnam War series. It's extremely ANCAPs are not. Of course, they're not anarchists. They want the corporations to have the power that the state has now. They have no interest in building a stateless, classless society. They want class. So no, that's my opinion. We watched the. Oh, here's what we can talk about. Let me talk about this for a minute. Movie recommendation. Last night, Luna and I watched a film called The Wind That Shakes the Barley. And I definitely recommend you give that a watch if you haven't seen it already. It's about the Irish Revolution against British colonial occupation. It's fascinating because there are so many parallels. I mean, the film just takes you, it's basically like taking you through a series of very difficult questions and problems that the Irish people had to figure out. And it takes place in right after World War I. Like it starts in 1920, and I think it goes for 2 or 3 years. So, it's a really good movie. It's like, it's a beautiful movie, but also it's really interesting from the perspective of a revolutionary. It has a good quote or two from James Connolly, who was a socialist Irish Republican. But it really shows like how difficult revolution is and how you will have we are having a revolution now, and the more terrible the revolution gets, the more terrible circumstances get. And as you move into violent conflict, especially, you have to make a lot of really tough decisions. And the people in the movie have to make a lot of really tough decisions. And they're very similar to the kinds of decisions that Vietnamese people had to make during the Vietnam Revolution and War.
Yep.
Just talking about The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
Yeah. It's really, really good movie.
So I'm probably gonna do a video on it one day, but they had to make decisions about whether or not they would like execute spies and traitors, which is like not a fun decision to have to make if you find out that somebody you grew up with was informing to the reactionary colonial administration. Like, do you let that person live? Do you send them out of the country? Do you execute? Like, what do you do in that situation? It's not an easy. I couldn't even begin to imagine.
Me and Marxist Paul should review it together.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome,
That'd be
actually.
Cool.
Yeah,
but like
James Connolly was quoted there.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a great movie. I definitely recommend you check it out.
Yeah, it is a very much situation the same as Vietnam. I gotta say, like, this is a famous tactic of imperialists, I guess. Always divide your country in half. Here's the thing, this is what they will do to your country. Probably. They divide your country in half, they take a part of it, and then they offer like, okay, so you have to give us this half of your country if like and we will give you peace on the other half.
Mm-hmm.
They literally separate us against our will, and then they use it to trick us like, okay, if you want peace, leave us alone with the South.
Right. And then there's a great scene in The Wind That Shakes. Well, it's like no spoilers, but towards the end of the movie, the British basically give the Irish, basically they call it the Free State. And it's like, okay, you can have your own nation now, you can set your own policies and everything, but you're still part of the British Empire, and you still have to swear an oath of loyalty to the king. So it was like quasi-independence, but it wasn't true independence, right?
Yeah.
And so the more political, diplomatic people in the organization are like, yeah, we should take this. This is a step forward.
Yeah.
We'll, and then later on we can move forward later and be more like evolutionary and iterative and everything. But then the more militant people and especially the socialists and the communists are like, no, this is not acceptable. It's like James Connolly said, you can't just raise the green flag over Ireland but still maintain capitalism, because then the British will just rule us through landlords and capitalism and that sort of thing. So so some of them make the decision to continue having a civil war, and then the soldiers are like, because now here's the big quality change. Now, instead of British troops occupying and enforcing all of these colonial laws, they have exclusively Irish soldiers, and these are the former revolutionaries, right? So now a lot of the Irish revolutionaries who are really more militant, they're like, no, I can't do this. I can't go out and fight the people who were my comrades, a week ago. It's really, really tough. And I feel like that must have been very similar in like 1950s in Vietnam, when the puppet regime came up and they were like, okay, the French are gone. Now we have this, the ARVN and NOZM. We know these people suck, but at least they're Vietnamese now. And I'm sure a lot of the communists now, they didn't want to fight Vietnamese people.
There are families who have this children like join the Viet Minh and other children join the ARVN.
Yeah. Like it must be extremely difficult. And I think that what's really great about that film is it will show you that a revolution is very difficult. You have to make a lot of very difficult decisions. Tough decisions. They have a whole scene where they're talking about, okay, are we gonna
no spoilers.
No spoilers, but I won't tell you what happened, but they're trying to solve the problem. Are we going to side with this land? No, he was like a landlord or a capitalist. He was a very wealthy man. And he was having a dispute with a really poor woman. And she owed him money. And they're trying to decide, are we going to side with the poor woman and, stick to our socialist values and risk alienating this rich guy when we have a shipment of guns coming in and he's paying for them? And Ho Chi Minh had to make similar decisions. Like you talked about that landlord or that one capitalist guy.
Yes.
The first execution.
The guy that was a guy in Vietnam. He joined the Communist Party in 1944 and joined the revolution. And then he was from a rich landlord family before, and he donated like most of his family's wealth to the government of Vietnam at that time. And then he worked for the government, and then he became the master of what?
The quartermaster.
The quartermaster. He became the quartermaster.
I believe the quartermaster general.
And from 1945 to 1950, he was extremely corrupted. Extreme corrupted, as bad as a guy. Could be as bad as the guy is the Marcos in Philippines, something like that.
Yeah.
And caused actually the suffering, the death of lots and lots of soldiers were actually actively fighting against the French colonialists at that time. So Ho Chi Minh had to give a very hard decision of executing him.
Mm-hmm.
In 1950. It was the first decision ever of Ho Chi Minh. At that time, it was extremely tough because he, joined the revolution and he donated his family's wealth to it, but then he became extremely corrupted and caused the whole loss for the resistance war against the French, and Ho Chi Minh had to execute him.
And that's a tough decision. And in doing so, right, you're alienating other wealthy people at a time when you need their resources to buy ammunition.
Exactly.
Vo Nguyen Giap talks all the time in People's Army about how they need guns. Like that's the one thing they really, really need. So, and they need munitions and food and all kinds of stuff. So you have to make tough fucking decisions. It's not like you can't always just be like a dogmatic. Sometimes you have to make a tough decision. You know what I mean? It's like how they waited for land reform. Yeah. They didn't do land reform immediately. They did it in stages.
Yeah.
But then, as in the movie The Wind That Shakes the Barley, there are times when you have to make a hard, fast decision and say, no, we're not going to compromise here. Yeah. We have to stand true. It's fascinating seeing how people have had to struggle with those kinds of tough decisions. We got some good comments I'm going to read, and then I'm going to leave.
Okay.
Because I know y'all aren't here to watch me. I
want you to be here.
I know you do, but I'm wet and stinky.
You're so wet. You're not stinky, but you're wet.
EJ, before you leave, you can get Connolly's collected works from the James Connolly bookstore in Dublin. I ordered it all overseas. I definitely want that. Holy smokes. Next time I go to the USA, I'll probably order that.
Yeah.
Sinn Féin won the elections, so we're closer than we've ever been. The Irish have been against colonialism for 800 years. Yeah. What's fascinating to me about that is
800 years.
Luna, I never, ever learned a single ass thing about the Irish Revolution at all. And I did AP European history. I got a 5 on the European history exam, 5 out of 5. And we never talked about the colonization of Ireland or the revolution of Ireland. I wonder why. Maybe it's because there were a lot of socialist aspects and they talked about revolutionary nationalism for colonized people and self-determination. So anyway, I just think that's interesting. And also, the only thing we really learned about was the potato famine. That's all I remember talking about in Ireland. That's it. Yeah. This was something. Okay, hold on. Almost done here. For Communist POV and the Civil War, I recommend reading on Sean McLaughlin. Okay,
never heard of.
Check that out.
Interesting.
And then finally, this one, I think the last thing I want to hear Luna talk about a little bit. Connolly called those who supported any partition as worse than the occupier. Partition, is like dividing the country.
Yeah.
the movie we watched last night, I know was difficult for you to watch. Like, I could tell Luna was, I did too, obviously, but I mean, I think for Luna particularly, it kind of hit close to home because it was a very similar situation what the Irish people went through with the British that you went through with the French and the Japanese and the Americans. Like, and you said it several times during the movie. Luna kept saying over and over again, like, we hate the compradors and the traders more than we hate the colonizers.
Exactly.
So maybe something to talk about a little bit.
We Vietnamese, we do hate the compradors and the traders more than the actual invaders and the colonizers themselves, because why? Those people, they should have known better, and they knew better. They are our own people, our own flesh and blood, but they still betray us to work for the colonizers. Like, it's disgusting.
One last thing about The Wind That Shakes the Barley. If nothing else we said convinces you to watch it, it definitely paints Churchill as the asshole, genocidal, colonizer, anti-worker shithead that he was. And it's just great. It's so satisfying seeing a film where they keep talking about Churchill.
I'm so amazed at the fact that how can they get the British government to pay for
the
that
UK
movie?
Film Council helped it. Like, whoever made that deal, fucking badass. Like, they got the UK Film Council.
So that's what we call work within the system.
Right. If you can ever get like the reactionaries,
maybe some Irish guy work within the system with the British and then get that decision to pay to make that extremely socialist movie.
Exactly. It's like we occasionally will get like these like offers to sponsor your channel, like from VPNs and stuff. And I'm like, maybe we should like take some capitalist money and use it just to directly fund. I don't know. But then we'll get canceled on Twitter for being hypocrites or whatever the fuck ever from dogmatic ideology. But anyway, I'm done. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go check out The Wind That Shakes the Barley. It's a great film.
It's great.
Recommend it.
It's a very rare movie that we do not have any critic,
I liked it because I'm, largely Irish. I'm like, I don't know exactly what percentage, but I have a lot of Irish ancestry, and I'm completely alienated from it because of whiteness. So like, I mean, like I've had my connection to that culture completely destroyed, and it's kind of nice to see that there's a strong revolutionary history back in Ireland, and I want to learn more about that. So that was good. If you're a white person and you've completely lost touch with your cultural roots because whiteness has replaced it, sound off in the comments, because it's nice to know. I mean, that's an experience that a lot of white Americans have, is that like, we're just like, our culture is like Burger King. It's pretty sad. Burger King and like G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles. That's like my culture.
Taco Bell.
Yeah, it's just like there is no culture left because whiteness is stamped out.
I mean, whiteness is the lack of race. Whiteness is the lack of culture, right? Whiteness
is the lack. Yeah, it's the lack of ethnicity.
Language.
It's like
lack of culture, language, and race.
Yeah. My whiteness has turned me into mayonnaise.
Mayo.
That's hilarious.
We called it mayo in Vietnamese. All
right. Irish person here disconnected from their culture. Good. It's not just me.
Yeah.
It is like a bleach. That's a really, really good metaphor, actually.
Yeah, bleach.
Whiteness is like bleach. And it just
it bleaches you from everything.
Yeah. It just wipes out all the roots that you have. Yeah.
And that's white.
The history of the Irish people in the USA is so tragic to me. And I'm kind of embarrassed coming from that lineage. I mean, I don't know, but I would have to hazard to guess that my ancestors like turned their back on their own culture to benefit from whiteness.
That's crazy when you do not know about your own people's history.
Yeah, I had no clue. Like here's the thing. We would have like kind of like this like hokey Irish pride thing where like, we would have like shirts with 4-leaf clovers on them and shit, and like we drink
like
Irish beer,
like extinct like culture, a distinct culture.
Yeah, it was almost like a consumer version of Irish
songs, music.
Well, no, the songs and music. That's one of the only connections I do have to the revolutionaries, because like the most Irish old, at least the ones I've listened to, have a lot of revolutionary content in them, actually. So anyway, And so that's one good piece of connection that I do have. If you want to like start, if you have Irish ancestry and you want to get into it, music I think is a great way to get into that. All right. Anyway, bye everybody. Have fun.
The sad fact about Irish were treated as subhuman until they started assimilated and become cops.
Yep.
A very dark part of history where Irish people and black people in the USA were treated horribly the same, and they were about to reach to a solidarity with each other to fight against a racist asshole in America. But then the Irish, bunch of Irish decided to cop out and side with the settlers, become the cops, and sell out their own comrades, which are black people, and that's why they were accepted into the whiteness. And then it's sad. And that also proves that whiteness is social construct. It's bullshit, because people can just be like, it changed over time. Like this group of people accepted as white was not white before, now they are white. Is it like a white pass or something? It's really strange. Why do people keep calling me? I can't. Hey.
Do you need to take the collar down?
No, fine. I turn it off. It's fine.
You're so popular.
I don't know why. Suddenly, like, I've been free for a few days and nobody called me. And right in the moment that I am streaming, bunch of people call
Everybody
me.
loves Luna.
Is there a risk that hating the compradors more than the colonizers plays into the hands of colonizers because of divide and conquer, have the exploit to fight with each other? I do not think so, because it is what it is, and those traitors are gonna betray. So I mean, it means like it's the clear the line, and also like tell other people like, you do not become the henchman of the colonizers. You do not, because you're literally betraying your own people. Actually, like, being nice to those compradors is actually you're encouraging them to collaborate with the enemies even more. Because why? They don't have to bear any consequences for their action, for their betrayal to their own people. So I don't think so. If like you like side with the colonizers, you're just done. Okay, we don't want to have anything to do with us. Seriously, you're literally betrayal to your own people. Yeah, black people and Irish people used to be so close that many black people, me included, have Irish ancestry and eat like Irish derived dishes. Yeah, it is that.
Hey, I have a point to add to that.
Oh,
Sorry, everybody.
you're welcome.
I know everyone complains when I come in. Okay, but there was a scene in The Wind That Shakes the Barley that reminded me of this. Okay, and also the Ken Burns documentary. If you're a comprador, and this applies to anybody, not just in colonized places, but if you're a class trader in the USA or whatever, at any moment in time, and I say this to white people all the time. I say this to white people who get really pissy whenever I start talking about how whiteness is white supremacism, right?
Yeah.
You have the opportunity at any moment to turn your back on whiteness. You have the opportunity at any moment to stop being a comprador.
Yeah.
To stop being a class trader.
Yeah.
And to join the revolution, right?
Yeah.
So like in The Wind That Shakes the Barley, again, no spoilers, but there's a soldier and he's working for the British, and he basically like deserts and he joins the revolution, and he's welcomed immediately.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, you were a traitor, but now you want to join us, you're helping us out, you can.
Exactly.
We
like
welcome you.
Costas Sarantides.
Yeah.
He literally like betrayed the French army and then fled to fight for Vietnamese, and we immediately welcome him.
Yeah.
Like there's no doubt about it.
And then and also it's like really amazing to me how much I guess patience and like grace colonized people and
Mm.
black folks in the USA, and like a lot of people have had, because like for instance, in that
I think I had a super chat a long time ago.
I read it.
Oh, thanks.
In the Ken Burns, they said they were having trouble with Streamlabs because they can't use PayPal. But anyway, in the Ken Burns documentary, the woman who talked about how her father was a comprador and was like working with the French, and the Viet Minh came in and they threatened him.
Yes.
But they didn't actually kill him.
Nope.
Or hurt him in any way. They just threatened him.
They just put down the gun and left.
And when you were watching that last week, Luna was like, "See, we were too nice." So it's like there's a lot of situations where they do pull their punches when it's their own people, even if they are traitors. It's like, but it's the point is that it's tough though, and like you're in a situation where Luna's right. I mean, if you're in it, you can talk about like any kind of class traitor, any kind of traitor to your liberation struggle. You do have to. You can't be like super tolerant about that because you're literally having a life and death struggle.
You cannot tolerate that. Mm-hmm. Because if you tolerate that means that you're like encouraging other people to do the same thing. Like you're tolerating like misogyny and racism in your movement.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's why like it is exactly you're encouraging people to be misogynic and racist.
And it's like it's up to like people who have been harmed to decide who they will and won't forgive or accept or whatever. But it's like in Vietnam, they let Japanese fascists who switched sides join the Vietnamese revolution, the communist revolution. They let Greek soldiers who were working for the French, like Kostas Sarantidis, they let him join. Anybody that wanted to switch sides and join, they were welcome. And the Vietnamese were dropping propaganda all the time on American soldiers saying like, please put down your arms
join
and
us.
We'd welcome you. And I'm, to my knowledge, no American ever switched sides.
Yeah, we haven't heard any American that switch side yet.
I can only think of
why is that? You're so brainwashed.
Yeah, I know. Well, there were people that were like fragging their officers and stuff.
I know. The best they do is like kind of to stop fighting, find an excuse to not fight, but that's it. None of you are literally like brave enough to literally escape it and go fight for us. Damn it, over 20 years and none.
Yeah.
That we heard of.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like when it comes to me, it's like if you're a communist and you are going to be transphobic, you're going to be supporting patriarchy, you're going to be racist, like overtly, just like, and you don't give a shit. Like if you call yourself a communist and you have these kinds of bigoted attitudes, or you're white, basically a white chauvinist, white supremacist kind of thing.
It is never late to switch sides.
Then
you're choosing us, you're choosing like the revolution side. It's never too late.
Yeah, it's never too late to join humanity.
Yeah, never too late.
And join the side of saving humanity from the destruction that's coming. No, yeah.
Haitians welcome the Polish and Germans as brothers fighting the same fight. Exactly.
Absolutely. See, why does everybody want you to hit me all the time? There's this constant demand for you to physically assault me from your audience. Don't give them what they want.
Like slow motion, like.
No, I refuse to participate. Anyway.
So funny. We have about 8 minutes left. You can just stay here for the rest, okay?
She is Asia. Luna,
you
are Asia.
I am
you
the whole
are
continent.
The whole continent of Asia. Somebody commented on Luna's channel, who's this hot Asian girl? And the name of the stream was like Vietnamese blah 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 something Luna Oi, right? Mm-hmm. And Luna replied like, I know I'm hot and it probably confuses you, but my nationality and my name are both in the title of this fucking video.
Ah, gosh.
Dude, it's so annoying to me. Do you think of yourself as Asian, Luna?
I'm Vietnamese.
I know, it's like such a white concept.
White thing. That's a white concept. Like we think like Japanese are Japanese, Chinese are Chinese, like Laotian are Laotian, and we Vietnamese are Vietnamese, Filipino are Filipino. We really do not think it's like that's the Asian concept. That came with colonialism.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's important maybe in the USA because there is more. There's like solidarity against oppression between different Asian nationalities in the USA. But I don't know. I'm not gonna judge. But We do get a lot of shitty comments of people calling Luna Asian, and it's like it's just there's a way people use that word that makes it very. You know what I'm saying? The kind of the sentiment.
What if I call you European? How do you feel?
It's kind of like if you call me a honky.
Honky.
Or a C word that we can't say on Twitch because Twitch is a white supremacist platform. It doesn't really hurt me at all. It can't hurt me. But it's like I don't feel. I don't know. I guess you can't hurt me with it.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, you're not even funny. You're not even a funny troll. This is like the worst troll. Where are our mods? Do we not have any admins?
Laughing. Look at our face. I'm not even laughing.
Like, come on. If you're gonna be a shithead, then just try a little harder.
I mean, can I call you Yankee?
Yeah, I like that. I like when you call people Yankee-splaining. When you tell people they're Yankee-splaining, I think that's pretty funny.
Yankee-splaining.
All right. Did we get them? Did that work? I can't understand.
I can't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're gonna come troll us, just be creative.
I mean, you're asking too much from those.
Right. Fetishizing. That happens a lot.
Is a form of fetishizing.
That happens
yes.
to Luna a lot. Yeah.
I mean, it is a life. I don't know. Being sexualizing, fetishizing, objectifying.
Yeah, I mean, you get sexually objectified and verbally assaulted all the time by people who call themselves communists on Twitter. That's fun. So anyway, let's bring it up. Let's bring it back up.
Mm.
Can you say the G word on stream? I heard Twitter thinks it's a slur. I don't even know. I think they meant slur there.
Slur.
With that last word.
mean, the R and T next to each other. Yeah.
I mean, can we talk a little bit about Twitch? I mean, we don't even care if we get kicked off Twitch, really. It's such a shitty platform. Like, they're white supremacists. I'll never forgive the slavers for making me a Yankee.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know the dynamics of Yankiness. I know that, unfortunately, I'm pretty much a Yankee, I think.
Can you say gringo on stream?
You just said the word. You're not. Who knows?
Who knows, right? Shit.
Luna probably. Okay, anyway.
Move on.
Whatever. If we get banned from Twitch for saying that word, then fuck.
Whatever.
Who cares?
Fuck Twitch. This is like literally the straw that broke the camel's back.
Twitch is a absolutely white supremacist,
now the
transphobic.
C word, now the G word too.
It's the worst. I mean, not to say YouTube is like great, but I mean, Twitch is like over the top in terms of just being a reactionary garbage site.
No, Todd, we don't know yet.
No. Here's the thing. I'm from South Carolina, but if you're in, I know Korea, or if you're in probably Vietnam, you're a Yankee no matter where you're from in the USA. Yeah, I'm not a Yankee in a South Carolina context, but in a
global kind of sense, you're a Yankee.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of corner in the United States of America that you're born.
Right. I am, unfortunately a Yankee. Yeah, it's totally acceptable to put 3 Ks at the end of Yank because it's a white supremacist shithole of a colonial empire. Can you explain me
the history of the word Yankee?
Well, kind of. I can give you the really, really bad version. There's probably something in the comments could do a better job. Uncle EJ's still coughing. Yeah, I'm still recovering from COVID. Hold on, I want to read this comment too. So it started like in the Revolutionary War or something like that. There was like this whole Yankee Doodle thing, and I don't know, it was like a fashion or something. I don't know. And then the Brits called Americans Yankee during the Revolutionary War, but we were like, oh, we're gonna be proud of this. We're gonna take this insult, And then, yeah, that's it. And then during the Civil War, the Southerners called the Northerners Yankees.
Oh.
I don't fucking know. Doesn't matter. I loved your appearance on the Deprogram. It was one of the earliest episodes of theirs I listened to, and it got me excited for learning more about Vietnam and hopefully visiting there. Well, we hope you do visit here. It's definitely easier now to visit than it has been for the past 3 years. You can pretty easily come here. It's pretty much wide open. what do you know in the way of? There's not really much in the way of COVID restrictions.
No.
You know, wear a mask and
just vaccinated, got vaccinated, wear a mask, wash your hands, done.
Yeah. And U.S. Yank kind of means anti-slavery to the worst people. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like
Yeah, weird.
It's got a lot of different connotations in different contexts. For instance, yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to go down that road. I don't really want to go down that road. Yeah, people who cannot get over the Civil War will call us Yankees or carpetbaggers. I mean, my dad's from the North, and he got a lot. He was, you know, like my grandpa legit did not want my dad to marry my mom because my dad was from the North and my mom is like from South Carolina.
So
from the
funny.
I don't know. It's silly.
We should find somebody to rate, huh? On Twitch.
Yeah, is anybody twitching? Let's see who's twitching out there. Oh man.
It's almost like it's like 4 weeks already and you're still coughing here. Ta sẽ bảng điều khiển của người.
Đúng rồi. Tôi biết rồi. Nope, nobody's twitching.
Because I cannot follow anybody on Twitch.
Yeah.
You still haven't
Again,
like that?
shithole site. I have no clue.
I don't know why Twitch cannot help.
Twitch won't let me or Luna follow anybody. And when we contact them for customer service, they just don't. What did they do? They like just send us a copy of the FAQ
They
or
chicken
something.
out.
Yeah, there's no real reply. So we just can't do anything about it. We
cannot
it's been this
follow
way for
anyone.
years.
Yeah.
Twitch is the worst website. It's such a shitty website. Oh, gosh. So we can't rate anybody on Twitch, I guess, unless anybody has a specific name. Famous Horses Live?
Hey, Famous Horse.
Luna, you were just interviewed by Famous Horse yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
All right, so we're gonna rate into Famous Horse. All right, everybody. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Don't forget. Well, let's do this. Let's do this real quick. I have a special surprise, a special treat for all of you Mooncasters.
Really?
I do.
I didn't even know.
Assuming our website's not down right now. It was earlier. Let's see if it's down.
Ooh, it's loading.
Is it loading?
Is
it loading?
Doesn't look like it.
My web server. Oh, good. Okay. My web server was down for a long time, but now it's working. Okay. So, Luna, we have a shop. Where the fuck is? Okay, marketing. There we go. Okay, so we have a web shop at lunaoi.com/shop or non-compete.com/shop, either way. But right now we'll give you 10% off just for watching Breadcast and Mooncast. And the coupon code is Breadcast2022. If you want to get 15% off, you can become a follower of Luna on Patreon or Camaraderie or her YouTube channel. And there's a 15% coupon code there. But anyway, it's lunaoi.com/shop. Coupon code Breadcast22 will save 10%. And then if you become Luna's supporter on Camaraderie or Patreon, it's 15%.
Can we use 2 coupons at the same time?
I don't even know.
If you're watching this and you
I don't think so. No, you cannot.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
We would lose money. I mean, sorry folks.
Sorry folks.
We're kind of breaking even with the 15% discount code. So anyway, if you want to save 10%, Breadcast 2022, we've got patches. We've got all kinds of masks.
Patches.
We've got shirts, Chibi Luna shirts.
Out there.
Although right now, you gotta get yourself. These are selling out actually.
Oh,
so
again?
Yeah. So if you want one of those,
that's a hot item, huh?
I told you the Luna Oi shirts. The Luna Oi shirts always sell out. These are running low too. So
I drew this by myself, by the way.
If you want a Luna Oi shirt, you better get quick, and then these are gonna run out soon too. The Prolo shirts.
Oh, really?
We have like anarchist and communist Prolo shirts. And actually, I got to go and fix the website real quick, but it should work for you as of now. I'm just going to make it better. So anyway, all right, that's it.
Okay,
let's raid Famous Horse. Have fun, folks. We'll see you next time. Say something, Luna. It's your show.
Bye everybody. Kia đàn chim tìm về nơi đâu một ngày đã qua vui bên nhau về tổ ấm đầy tình thân ái và tiếng hát đón chào ngày